So the shikimate pathway, that's the term for a biochemical pathway that glyphosate disrupts in microbes. And Monsanto has argued that glyphosate is safe because human cells do not have the shikimate pathway. So it's only going to interrupt the microbes and not us, so that's okay, right? But since our gut bacteria have this pathway and we need them, we're going to be in trouble. So the beneficial bacteria use this pathway to produce B vitamins like folate and vitamin K2. And these are very important for neurological function and mood and sleep. And they also use this pathway to produce essential amino acids, and these like tryptophan, tyrosine, phenylalanine. And those are precursors for neurotransmitters that our brain needs to control mood and sleep. It's like these are precursors for serotonin, melatonin, hormones that we need to feel good, to be in a good mood, and also to sleep. So there's a very tight connection between the gut and the brain. Whenever there's something wrong in the gut, there's going to be like a mental connection. And there's going to be mood disorders or sleep disorders or mental health stuff. All of that has a gut connection. So when our gut bugs get hit with the glyphosate in our food, they stop making these amino acids and make toxins instead, like P-cresol, made by C. difficile, and which is a toxic phenol, and it can disrupt DNA. And you probably know anything that disrupts DNA can potentially cause cancer, because that's what happens with cancer. So there are some gut bacteria that can break down the glyphosate, but in doing so, they make ammonia, which isn't something you want to have in your system too much of. And they found high levels of ammonia in autistic kids and also in Alzheimer's. And another pathway, another breakdown product of glyphosate is formaldehyde. And up to 200 ppm parts per million have been found in GMO corn. And formaldehyde is also very toxic. It also causes DNA damage and increases your cancer risk. Another function of glyphosate in the body is that it disrupts your P450 CYP enzymes. And sorry about the technical term, but those are basically enzymes in your liver and kidney. And one of their roles, a big role of them, is to detoxify any compounds that the body needs to get rid of. So glyphosate would inactivate them, and then now your detoxing isn't working so well. The other thing they do is they activate your vitamin D, which is very important. I think most people have heard of vitamin D deficiency being linked to a higher cancer risk, depression, all sorts of it's in heart disease, it's low, tends to be low. I mean, it's been linked to a lot of, low vitamin D has been linked to a lot of chronic issues too. And then there's a study that found that vitamin D deficiency has doubled from 2000 to 2010. And in this study, I read the study, and the authors were kind of puzzled by this, and they tried to find some explanations. Like maybe obesity rates went up a little bit, or we're staying inside more, but really between 2000 and 2010, it didn't really change that much. The one thing that did change is glyphosate use doubled between 2000 and 2010. And yours didn't make that connection, but that is why vitamin D deficiency is now rampant. And even if you're taking vitamin D, which a lot of people do now, it has to go through 2 steps of activation before your body can use it. And it's your CYP enzymes that activate this. So if they're not working because of glyphosate, it doesn't matter how much vitamin D you take, you're going to be deficient. Yeah. Here's the reference for that. And another action of glyphosate, how it's linked to infertility. Basically, vitamin A metabolism uses CYP enzymes. It's a complicated metabolism with lots of steps, and each of those steps uses CYP enzymes. And also, your steroid and sex hormones are also synthesized by CYP enzymes. And all of this is disrupted by glyphosate. So this could be potentially the link to infertility there. And Don Huber has studied this in animals, and he reported that there were really high rates of infertility and miscarriage in GMO-fed dairy cows, to the point that it was really not sustainable for the farmers. Now, there isn't any studies in humans, but if that happens to dairy cows, who's to say it does not happen in humans? And the US rates of infertility has gone up by 30% from 2010 to 2015. And it's still rising. And another issue is that this is an enzyme aromatase, and it converts testosterone to estrogen. And this one is also, it's a CYP enzyme, it's also inhibited by glyphosate. And aromatase deficiency has been found in autism. And this is another study that also shows the link to infertility. Roundup disrupts male reproductive functions by triggering calcium-mediated cell death in rat testes and Sertoli cells. So basically, they can't make sperm cells well when exposed to glyphosate. And we've probably all heard that our sperm count rates have dropped by more than half since I don't know when, but are still going down. So glyphosate could definitely be one of the factors here. Probably not the only one, but it could contribute. Glyphosate micronutrients, as we saw earlier, glyphosate chelates minerals. So it's going to chelate all the +2 cations, like zinc, magnesium, calcium ion, cobalt, and manganese. So if you eat a lot of glyphosate, you're going to get deficient in those. And also glyphosate chelates aluminum. And if there's any aluminum, which there is in our food and we're exposed to from cookware and from all sorts of other sources, it transports the aluminum into the brain. So it can cross the blood-brain barrier more easily. And it gets into your pineal gland. And because the pineal gland is more acidic than the rest of the environment, the glyphosate lets go of the aluminum. And now the aluminum binds tightly to sulfur, which the pineal gland has a lot of. And so this is disrupting your serotonin and melatonin metabolism, in addition to you not having the amino acids that you need to make them as well, because it's disrupting the amino acids too that you need to make this. So it's basically, it delivers quite a blow to the brain here. Glyphosate also disrupts sulfate synthesis and serum sulfate transport, which is very important for detoxing and all sorts of functions. Sulfur is very important for brain function, and as I said, high levels are found in the pineal gland. And sulfate deficiency is associated with autism and Alzheimer's disease, which could be caused by glyphosate, at least one of the factors. And it delivers a 1-2 punch. So first, glyphosate is going to lower your sulfate, and then the remaining sulfate gets bound to aluminum that glyphosate helped to get into your brain. And now the brain cannot detox, because it's one of the things that's happening at night when you're sleeping. Melatonin binds to sulfate, and the melatonin sulfate gets delivered to brain cells to help them detox, and all of that is disrupted. So this is the link to mental health problems and also autism and learning disabilities. And I thought this was interesting. This is an article in the German magazine, Der Spiegel, in 2017. And the headline read, "Monsanto faces blowback over cancer cover-up. A release of internal emails has revealed that US agrochemical giant Monsanto manipulated studies of the company's herbicide Roundup. Experts believe the product causes cancer, and the consequences for the company could be dire." Well, we hope. They're still denying this. It's still not listed. Or they're trying to get it listed as a carcinogen, but it still isn't so far. So the incidence of chronic diseases has increased dramatically with the use of glyphosate, and this includes autism, all kinds of cancers, Alzheimer's disease, celiac disease, which is gluten intolerance, and diabetes. And this is from this study that Stephanie Seneff and Anthony Samso did. It was published in 2014. It's a very shocking study. The abstract reads, a huge increase in the incidence and prevalence of chronic diseases has been reported in the United States over the last 20 years. Similar increases have been seen globally. Evidence is mounting that glyphosate interferes with many metabolic processes in plants and animals, and glyphosate residues have been detected in both. Glyphosate disrupts the endocrine system and the balance of gut bacteria. It damages DNA, and it is a driver of mutations that lead to cancer.